everyone. This is part 2 of Zoe Alexander, the Xfactor, The Truth. Thank you all so much to everyone who's watched and commented on my first video. I really do appreciate it, and your support, it means so much to me. Thank you very much. Thank you as well to everyone who watched my original song that I wrote, Fire. I've had loads of lovely comments on that, and thank you. So for everyone who's been asking, and he has had a lot of fan mail, I'm just gonna get Mr. Stewart. Stewie Stewart! Oh no, did I wake up the puppy? Oh no. So here he is, for everyone who's been saying how cute he is, and he's grown a lot since you last saw him. Oh, he's a tired little boy, and he's got Chinese all over his face because he's had his head in the bin. Mr. Stewart. Oh. Oh, you're so sleepy. Come on then. Ooh. We've woken the beast now. He's going to make loads of noise. So, part 2. So, when we got home, within about an hour, the editor of the Daily Mail phoned. My dad answered the phone, and my dad said to him he didn't see how they could possibly show that on TV because of the cruelty and showing someone having a full-on breakdown on stage. He just didn't see how that was possible. And the editor said they will do anything that they can. They will edit it in any way they can to show it on TV because it is TV gold. So he came round anyway to interview us, and I told him the whole story of the day from beginning to end. I told the complete truth of what happened. My dad told him the truth of what happened, and in my naivety, I thought the truth mattered at that point, or at least a part of the truth would matter, but I was wrong. And a few things really resonated with me. The editor said that at the end of the day, they work for Simon Cowell and people like Simon Cowell, and without people like Simon Cowell feeding them, they would have nothing to write. And then he said that he was going to write that I'd sent flowers to the producer that I'd pushed. And my dad said, so does that mean that we actually have to send flowers? Because, you know. And he said, no, it doesn't matter what you said. It's only what we say you said. And it doesn't matter what you do. It only matters what we say you do. And then, before he left, he told me a lovely little story about a young girl who had been on the Xfactor, who lived in the South Wales valleys, and she went on the Xfactor. They humiliated her, and she was so broken by what they'd done that she was in a mental hospital. So that made me feel great. So the next morning, I was on the front of every newspaper, and nothing of what I had said, nothing of what my dad had said was there. It was I had been completely demonised in 24 hours by the newspapers who had printed the Xfactor's lies, and all I could think about, all that was echoing around in my head, was what that Daily Mail editor had told me. It's not what you did, it's what we say you did. And it's not what you said, it's what we say you said. By that point, I was pretty broken. I didn't stop. I was just shaking, and my whole body was aching. I don't think I stopped for weeks. So after that, I didn't sleep. In fact, I didn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I just stayed up all night, every night, and just I can't stress to you enough what an emotional wreck I was at this point. So the next day, I had an email from Kitty Brucknell.
Here's the email Kitty Brucknell sent. She said, I have to be careful what I say on email, but I have just seen the Daily Mail. I heard what happened yesterday. If you need to talk, call me. Please delete this email after you have read it. Kiss, Kitty.
For those of you who don't know who Kitty Brucknell is, she was a contestant on the Xfactor 2011, and she was on the Xfactor tour in 2012, so at this point she was still working for Psycho. So I called her, and she said, don't tell anyone that I have talked to you. If anyone finds out, I will be in big trouble. You don't know what it's going to be like when they edit it, and it's going to be bad, and there's going to be nothing you can do about it. I was like, they'll make sure you never work in Britain again. So if I was you, I would go abroad and I would never come back. Make sure that you delete the email, because if anyone finds out about this, then I will be in as big a trouble as you. Don't underestimate them. They will end your career, or even worse. I got off the phone and I was like, oh my God. What on earth is she trying to say? And I was thinking, has she said this off her own bat? Or has she been told to call me and threaten me on behalf of the company? Because she was working for them.
Kitty Brucknell said in a recent Instagram live that she is unwilling to speak openly about her experiences on the show because she is terrified of Simon Cowell. I asked myself, would someone who works for Simon Cowell and openly admits being terrified of him communicate with me in this way, knowing she would be in serious trouble? The only conclusion I can draw from this is that she was ordered by her bosses to convey their threats.
After that conversation, I lived in fear, and I didn't trust anyone or anything for a very, very long time. If anyone was nice to me, I thought that they were taking the mickey out of me. If anyone wanted anything from me, I thought they were just taking the mickey out of me. I just thought everyone was laughing at me all the time, and I didn't trust anything anyone said. Everywhere I went, I just thought everyone was lying to me, and I felt as though I was in a prison. I'd been put in a prison, and I couldn't get out. And then I realised that I needed to escape the prison. That's when I decided that I was going to tell my story, and that I was not going to live the rest of my life in fear. So after the conversation with Kitty, things went pretty quiet after that, and bookers started cancelling my work on the strength of what they'd read in the papers. I didn't leave the house for a long time, and I just kept breaking down, crying, and when I wasn't crying, I was just emotionally numb. Although at this point, I still didn't believe that they would show my audition on TV. I mean, how could they show the systematic bullying leading to a breakdown of a woman on stage? I had convinced myself that they weren't going to show it on TV because it would be too upsetting. And then I got a phone call from the Xfactor informing me that they were going to air my audition. And this was like the Saturday, and it was going to air the next Saturday. They were going to air my audition, and did I want them to handle my publicity and for them to represent me? I was honestly so terrified. I just said no and put the phone down. I nearly dropped the phone. I was so shocked. So then it aired on TV, and the weekend that it aired on TV, I was away, and on the Sunday, 3 or 4 reporters came to the hotel that I was staying at to interview us about what had happened. So they interviewed us, and we told them exactly the same story, the truth that we've been telling everyone else. And then later that day, I read what they'd written in the papers on the internet, and it was just full of lies, full of the lies that they broadcast. But I hadn't seen it at this point, so it didn't make much sense to me. But I was feeling pretty crushed. I was again demonized. I was the bad guy. So we went home on the Monday, and we watched the audition, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I couldn't believe it, because you've got to remember, myself and my dad, we talked about it with people for 6 weeks. I was a broken record. All I could talk about was that day, what happened on the stage. It was the only thing getting me through. It was the only thing I could think about at the time, because I was so worried that they were going to show it on the TV. And I was just petrified after I'd watched it. So all of a sudden, this girl from a small town in Wales was famous. Not in a good way. I was not famous in a good way at all, and a lot of you probably remember hating me, and I wouldn't blame you, because if I watched that video and thought it was real, then I would hate me too. But I tried to just get on with my life. I thought, I can't just sit and wallow, I'm going to try and get on with it. And I live in quite a small town where people know each other. But everywhere I went, there was just constant reminders of that day. People would stare at me and laugh at me, and I would go in the post office, and the old lady behind the counter that I would normally have a nice chat with didn't want to speak to me anymore and would just give me dirty looks and scowl at me. I'd go to the gym, and people would watch the video on their phones in front of me and then whisper and laugh. It was just everywhere I went, there was no getting away from it. It didn't matter what I did, where I went, everything was just a constant reminder of that day, because I was famous. People said to me, oh, don't worry, it'll blow over, it won't last forever. And it lasted for years and years and years. It didn't just blow over to this day. My dad had an email from Richard Holloway, the executive producer of Thames TV and the Xfactor, saying he was going to call. So when he called, I was on stage doing a gig, because I still had a few gigs here and there, and he said to my dad, does she want to come back on the show? And my dad said to him, were you there on the day? And he said, yes, of course I was. And my dad said, well, why would she want to come back on the show? And I mean, the thought of that, why would I want to go back to a show that did that to me? And two, why would they want the devil woman, the woman that did all that, back in their TV studio? Perverse or what? Before the Xfactor, I did a little bit of extra work here and there, and to my surprise, after it all, I got a phone call asking if I wanted to do some extra work. So I was over the moon. Things seemed to be getting back to normal, and I went and did extra work on Stella, a TV programme in the UK, and on that day the special guest was Rylan. He was a 2012 Xfactor UK contestant, and when he walked in the room, he spotted me. He knew who I was, and he came walking up to me and had a chat. He was actually a really, really nice guy. And he said to me, while we were having the chat, that the entire 2012 season of the Xfactor, they all took the mickey and laughed at Ollie, the guy I mentioned in the first video, the guy who, when I push the stanchion over, he's there, and then he protects another guy who he was not there. So if any of you want to go and have a look at the audition, and when I push the stanchion over, there's a blonde guy and he protects this other guy. If anyone knows who he is, I would really like to know, because he was not there. Because Rylan said to me, we all laughed and laughed and laughed at Ollie because he ran away as I came backstage and nearly fell over the banister. But that doesn't happen in the broadcast footage. But Rylan somehow knew that it happened, and they spent the entire season laughing at him. That, when that happened, that absolutely terrified me, because I thought, hang on, if Rylan knows that that wasn't real, who else knows? Does everyone know? Is it just a big joke? So I carried on trying to live a normal life as best I could. I carried on doing extra work and trying to do normal things. And one day I drove to the gym, and I like to go into the gym, and there were people there who, they were nice to me and they supported me. It was like my little support network. And anyway, I drove to the gym, and I think I had a panic attack. I think it was a panic attack, and I couldn't get out of the car, and I just sat there and cried, and I cried and I cried, and I couldn't physically get out of the car and go in. I was so scared. And eventually I sort of tried to calm myself down. I drove home, and I got in the house and there was no one here. My parents were at work, and I went upstairs and I ran an extremely hot bath. I poured myself a large glass of wine and I drank it, and then I tried to take my own life. But I don't really want to go into all that right now, and I think it just goes to show what a detrimental effect that the Xfactor can have on people's lives and people's mental health. And if things had been a little bit different, I might not be here talking to you today. But I don't really want to go into it now. It's another video. I'm going to talk about my mental health journey, how I got from there to here. But yeah, so that's sort of a brief story of my life after the Xfactor. Thank you for watching. If any of you have had any bad experiences and have been abused by the Xfactor, there's going to be an email in the description, so please email me any of your experiences. If you just want to chat, just give me an email. I've had loads and loads of questions about my last video, so I am going to do a question and answer video to answer any questions you have. So if you do have any more questions, email the email address below. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you soon.